This is It's a DS Thing, where every conversation is a step closer to the heart of God. Evelyn and Janet can't wait to share these moments of Bible seeking with you. In every episode, we tackle real issues, share personal stories, and discover the beauty of God's love in the midst of it all. So, if you're ready to be inspired, encouraged, and maybe even challenged a bit, hit that subscribe button now. Join our community of faith seekers, and let's walk this journey together.
Welcome back to another episode in our Unveiled series. This is a series where we invite guest speakers and together unveil the answers to all of your controversial questions. So let's dive in. It's time to unveil. Hey guys, it's Evelyn, one of your hosts. Sadly, Janet isn't able to join us today, but that is okay because I have a special guest with me tonight. And today we are talking to Nikki.
Hey guys. Hey.
I'm so glad you're joining me for tonight because we're going to have a great discussion. I can't wait to start unveiling our topic for tonight. But before then, I just want to get to know you a little bit better, Nikki, because you are one of my newer friends.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, just really quick.
Favorite color's purple, love food. I'm just kidding. But no, I'm a foodie for sure.
Same.
I love eating out, and I also am an active I work out a lot also to balance that love for food.
Gotta learn a couple things.
Today I was put my 60 minutes in, but I would say I like adventure. I really enjoy connecting with people, and I love the Lord.
Yeah. And so one of the things that we do in every episode is ask our guests a random question, just to get to know them a little bit better. And today's question is, who is your favorite artist, musician, band, and why?
Yeah. One of my favorite artists is Chili, and I would say, on that list as well, Mariah Carey,
Nice.
as well as I like Hillsong for, when I first actually was baptized, Hillsong was one of the first groups that I started listening to. And in Chili, I think she's a very talented artist, and she's inspirational. She's healthy. She's, I think a lot of great things with that. So I appreciate those artists. They are amazing.
Yeah. I like them a lot. But yeah. Awesome. So today's episode is called Spiritual Gifts in a Modern World. So that means we're going to be talking about unleashing your gifts, the importance of spiritual gifts.
Yes.
And Nikki will be sharing with us a very interesting speaking in tongues story. So make sure you stay tuned to the very end. So first of all, I want us to kind of define what spiritual gifts are. And I know 2 Corinthians 12:4 says there are different kinds of spiritual gifts, but the same Spirit is the source of them all. So I just want us to figure out what are spiritual gifts. Some people may not know what that means. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I feel like spiritual gifts are given from God, and they're meant to really glorify His purpose for us in our lives. And, spiritual gifts are something that are given to us. It's not something that you earn. I think it's a blessing from God. So, you can work at things like talents and things like that, and you can multiply it. He wants us to keep using our gifts and our talents. But I think the key thing is, who does it come from? And our spiritual gifts come from God.
Wow. Yeah. I like that you said that you don't earn them. You can't do anything to have a certain gift. You just kind of have it.
Yeah.
So are they a question that some people may ask, are they talents, or what is there a difference between talents and gifts, and what kind of variety of gifts are there? Because I know 1 Corinthians says that there's different kinds. What are some examples, and is there a difference between talents and spiritual gifts?
That's a great question. So I will pull up 1 Corinthians, so I don't want to misquote in any way, shape, or form. So I just want to pull it up for spiritual gifts. So 1 Corinthians 12, it's, it says, "Now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I do not want you to be ignorant. You know that you were Gentiles carried away to these dumb idols, however you were led. Therefore I may make known to you that no one speaking by the Spirit of God calls Jesus accursed, and no one say that Jesus is Lord except the Holy Spirit." So there are diversities in gifts, but the same Spirit. There's difference of ministries, but the same Lord. And there's diversities of activities. So I'm fast forwarding. So for example, wisdom through the Spirit, and others are given knowledge. Others are given faith. Others are given healing. Others are giving miracles. Others are given prophecy. Others are giving discerning of spirits, and I'm paraphrasing all of that. And others are giving different kinds of tongues. So there's beautiful things that come directly from God. So same God, different gifts.
Wow.
Yeah.
The faith is in there too. You were
Yes.
faith, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a gift. Yeah, I mean, I struggle with faith, to be honest. And
Yeah.
it's hard when your circumstances are not so great.
That's
then
right.
you are asked to have faith. And so just, I want to be a faithful person. And I can't believe that's one of the gifts. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned that we get them from God. Their source is from God.
Yeah.
How do we know when they're from the Spirit or when they're from God versus when maybe it's like something different? What if it's like an evil spirit?
That's a good question. I think ultimately, to your point, we're in a spiritual war.
Right.
And I think that, God definitely gives us gifts, but I think it's how we use them is how we're discerning as to what is causing us to use it. For example, that's how I look at it personally. So for example, if God gave me the gift of, the ability, let's say a talent, God gives me the talent of singing or something, and I'm using it to worship him and doing that spark to sing to the Lord and to praise him, I think that comes from God. But if I'm using that same talent to, I don't know, glorify myself or to, glorify really worldly things, I think that's when I start being used by a different spirit.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting what you said, that it depends on how we use them.
Yeah.
Because they can definitely be used for something other than to glorify God. And I'm assuming that, our spiritual gifts were given to us to glorify him, to bring people closer to him, right? To testify and all these things. But when people start to use them in a negative way, I think that's where we cross the line and take advantage of what was given to us.
So I have a story to tell you, girl.
Okay.
This is where I kind of this is why I show, God does give and take away. Because I was supposed to speak, my friend asked me to sing at church and she wanted me to sing this one song. And I was like, that song doesn't show off all of my range. So I have another song that I want to sing. Okay. I get up there and I'm singing this song on my own will, trying to do my own thing, looking to glorify my own vocal cords. And let me tell you, it was painful. It was, I wish I could run out. I was stuck. I couldn't move. It was hundreds of people. And my voice was going all over the place. I was like, what's happening? I just sang this earlier. But that was a lesson to me. It's if I'm going on my own strength, God can literally take it away like that. It was, I was in front of a whole crowd of people, and I wish I could, take that memory from everyone, but it's recorded.
That doesn't sound very fun.
So it was a lesson of even in doing spiritual things, it could be used for self-glorification, and that in itself is out of God's will also.
Right. Yeah, because I've seen sometimes pastors that have tried to use very eloquent vocabulary, or they try to almost in a way show off that they are able to speak in front of a crowd. And then sometimes I'm like, that was great. And then sometimes I'm like, that was not so great. I can definitely tell that he was trying too hard. And then it's just kind of the message is lost in it. Yeah.
And I think the word is meant for the common man. So, the beautiful thing about the Bible is it is meant for everyone. So every single person has access to it, and it doesn't matter what school you went to, what family you grew up in. It is the one thing that levels the playing field for everyone, like God is. Like, so, yeah, but to your point, sometimes people like to get in all these, like, theological debates and all these things, but in my opinion, that's when we've lost sight of what the whole reason what we're here for.
Right. Since I was, I don't know, like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
My parents always pressured me to do, to sing, to have special music and to sing in front of all, like, the whole church. I was so self-conscious of myself, and the whole time I was thinking about what other people were going to say about my singing, you know. And if I didn't, at the end of the sermon, at the end of the church service, if I didn't have someone come up to me and tell me, oh, like, that was so good, like, that was great, you did wonderful, I would be so disappointed in myself. And I started kind of having to retrain my mind in that sense, where I had to remember what my dad would always tell me, which was, when you're up there, you shouldn't be nervous, or try not to be nervous, because you're doing this for God. Like, think about the lyrics, think about what you're trying to tell other people, try to bring people closer to God, through the lyrics of the song, through the melody of the song, even. So people are not there to hear you sing. They're not there to hear you preach. They're not there to hear you talk pretty. God is using you as a vessel to help others and to, I started thinking that some people, like, even started, it was different what they would tell me. Instead of saying, oh, that was very pretty, you did an awesome job, or whatever, they would say, oh, I loved what the song said, or like, wow, like, I really needed to hear that today. And that's when I knew, yes, like, I'm using this for the glory of God.
Amen.
Even when to this day, I think about that, and when I write music, I try to, it's a way for me to share what I've been through. You know, I'm only thinking, how is this going to help someone else? Like, how is this going to, like, affect someone else's journey with God? But
That's awesome.
It's all about doing it for the glory of God, which that actually brings me to my next question. And it is, you actually mentioned that they can be taken away from you, right? So why does it seem like God blesses other people's gifts when they aren't using them correctly, or they're using them to glorify themselves? So for example, like worldly musicians, or people like, for example, I don't know, Taylor Swift, who's like an iconic person right now, an iconic singer. So she, for example, she doesn't sing about God, but it seems like she's being blessed. And we kind of talked about how if we don't use our talents to glorify God, that they can be taken away. But how about Taylor Swift? You know, like, she's not necessarily talking about God in her music or sharing the gospel through her music. So is that what? Yeah, I guess, why does it seem that way?
I think that when it comes to spiritual gifts and or talents, it can definitely be, I should say like this, ultimately I think it's a spiritual war between good and evil. And I think that, you know, when we are not focused on God, and our heart isn't committed to God, and let's say we are more worldly in the world and the evil one has more control over us, we are less of, you know, a threat to the evil one. He can help people's gifts. Like, one of his gifts, he used to have a gift of music. So true. You know, like, having that, you know, and he desires a form of worship as well. So, and while he has dominion here on earth, and while he has access to all these different things, remember when Jesus was fasting, you know, he said, hey, look, and I'm paraphrasing, you know, I can give you all of this. And he pointed to the world. So he has power to give things to people. But ultimately, at the end of the day, every knee will bow and we'll all have to answer for it. So some joy may be short, but as a believer, ours is beyond this world. So I think God sometimes protects us and corrects us as a form of love, to prepare us for life after death.
Wow. Wow, that's a good answer. Matthew, he was telling me that Katy Perry was actually, I think she was into worship music.
Oh, okay.
Or something like that. Or she started off singing worship music, or creating worship music. And then the producers or something told her, we can't, you're not going to become famous that way. Or you're not going to be able to have a long-lasting career if you're only doing worship music. And this was, I feel like worship music has gotten a lot more popular now, but before, I feel like it just wasn't it.
This is true.
So, yeah, so she like just turned it around and said, like, I prefer, I guess, the fame and the fortune of it, which is kind of sad to think about. So it seems like from our discussion, like we've established that gifts are important. Would you say gifts are important?
Yes.
Some people may think to themselves, okay, like, I don't even know what I'm good at.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even know what my talent is. So how do I find my spiritual gift? If it's really that important, if we're supposed to be good stewards of it. 1 Peter 4:10 says, God has given each of you a gift from his great variety of spiritual gifts. So use them well to serve one another. So yeah, so what would you say to a person who's trying to find their spiritual gift, or they're like, I'm on a journey on trying to figure it out? Yeah, for me, I know it's very hard to answer that question. Like, what are you good at?
Yeah.
So let alone like this big spiritual gift that we were given, and yeah.
I feel like for me personally, by surrendering to God and being open and praying and asking him, because like God is like our father, like he wants us to know, like he wants us to grow, all of the above. So I think by developing a relationship with God, he can help to reveal things to us by in a personal relationship with God. Sometimes people view God as like this like entity, or, you know, this thing solely out of respect, but not in having a connection, but that having that relationship with God, like he wants to walk with us and talk with us, all those things. So I can imagine, you know, like, could you imagine someone next to you, like, that you really care about, like a father or someone, like, and you're like, hey, so what's my gift? And they're like, so like God, I think he cares. So I think by praying to him and building a relationship, and also in getting involved in ministry, like, I think that, and by being in ministry, not only are you trying out different things, you also are around people that will recognize, you know, different things about you. So for me, public speaking is like a fear for me. And that's something that I have, you know, I've worked really, really hard at sometimes to like get in front of, and speak in front of people. But there's been other people that have come up to me and said, hey, I think you should do this. When I was in school, I was a part of this one group, and then there was a teacher that came to me and said, hey, I think you should do this. So it was like people, by getting out there, trying things, like sometimes God can speak through people. But obviously it's good to not just go blindly with what people say, but prayerfully discern, like, God, is this you speaking through this? So I think by surrendering, communicating with God, getting involved with ministry, and then listening to those around you can help give some, you know. Yeah.
I like what you said about having established that relationship with God first, and a personal one too. Right? So
Yes.
I had an experience just last week, I think, where I was seeing God as this transactional being.
Yeah.
Like, hey, if you do this for me, I'll do this.
Like, I get you $10.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so so we tend to do that, or I'll speak for myself. Like, I tend to do that sometimes too. And it's like, no, like, we actually have to develop that personal relationship with God, where you said that we can discern what is right. What are you calling me to do? And calling is a whole other thing.
That's true.
But it's true about getting involved in so many things. Finding your community is a big deal, and just accepting the risks is what I'm hearing you say. Like, accepting things that people want you to be a part of.
Yeah. And not everything, because also people will, you know, so here's the other thing. There's a caveat with that. I will say this. When you have different gifts, you also have to learn how to be a good steward of them. And also being a good steward of them means to also don't use them up, meaning like overextending yourself. Because sometimes boundaries. Gifts, super talented people without boundaries is dangerous. And I caution everyone to be prayerful, because every ask from a spiritual leader is not always an ask from God. So prayerfully asking, because I remember when they were looking for Jesus, his mother or something. They're like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm about my father's business, right? Like, I can't be all over. And they're like, oh yeah, I want you to be a king. I want you, all these different things. He was focused on his mission. So prayerfully discerning how to use our gifts is a great thing.
Good. That's good. I know, I wish my cousin was here, Janet. She could speak a lot on this too, because she's very talented in a lot of things she does at church. So we were talking about how it runs in the Diaz family that we tend to be leaders sometimes. And because some people see that, they try to put us in like leadership positions, but like in all the leadership positions they can imagine. And so one of the things that I've seen Janet do is she's, you know, such a leader. She's very talented in different things. Like she speaks in, like she does a lot of public speaking for church, but she also is like in behind the scenes in the camera. She edits all this stuff. Like she edits all of our stuff too here, on the podcast. And so she's so involved with so many things. She has said that she's like, okay, I need to figure out what things are worth it for me and which things, I have to say no to.
Yeah.
Because she does use a lot of her spiritual gifts, and that's great that she's being assured with that.
Yeah.
But sometimes, we have to say no. My mom's the exact same way. She says, like, yes, because she wants to help, and she has this very nice, kind, helping heart where she's like, I'll do this, I'll do that. She used to be like a wedding planner on the side.
Wow.
But she didn't charge them. Like a single, I don't think she ever charged them, because they were for people from the church, like young couples that were getting married. And so she wanted to help them out. And so she would organize a lot of things, but then she was so tired, stressed out most of the time. But yeah, exactly what you're saying, depending which ones are from God.
Yeah. When I first started doing ministry, I literally, and it was even before ministry, I am the type of person, like, I'm a doer. So, like, I'm not, like, the type of person that, like, you know, you can sit around and talk about possibilities. Like, I'm action-oriented. And so that sometimes I have to, like, remember, just, you know, hey, we're not doing that. Like, you know, I mean, because I get so involved, I really want it to happen. But a wise woman once said to me, because I remember when I first started, I was all over the place doing all these things. And she looked at me, she says, wow, that must be exhausting. And I thought I had like this is just amazing. Like I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this. She looked at me, she's like, that sounds very exhausting. And she looked at me with a look of concern. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, I mean, you know, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. And with the time that you pause from doing what you should be doing versus what you could be doing, you can use that to be better at what you should be doing.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay. And then I remember one time she came to my event and I was like cooking, and then I was doing a presentation and she was like, what are you doing? I was like, I know we talked about this. Like, but I'm working on it.
Yeah.
But really wise words. Really, really, really wise words.
It's hard.
It is hard. Yeah.
We don't need to be involved in so many things just because we're good at it and then lose sight of what's really important.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I should preface it. I do love food, and I do, you know, I like to cook and all those things. I'm saying, and at that particular time I was doing all of the above. Like, I won't even list it because I don't want anyone to request it. So, but I was doing all these different things. And I learned some really valuable lessons from it.
Yeah.
So I sit in the back at church now.
Okay,
And I'm just gonna
I just right now.
I know, like, you know, blending with the wall. And I'm just kidding. No, but I will say that by guarding our talents and by it gives us time to also, you know, connect with God and keep fueling us along the way, you know? Yeah. So I think that's not just guarding, but being mindful and prayerful.
Right.
On how to use them.
Do you think that maybe, is there, like, there's a way to connect? Because you said...
I'm still learning that, by the way. In process. I haven't mastered it.
I'm right there with you.
But do you think there's a way to connect?
Like, there's a way to... Or when we use our spiritual gifts... Is that a way to connect to God?
I think so, because I think it's a beautiful thing to see God's leading in our lives and to see how he cares about every single thing, even to, you know, the meal that we eat, to the hair on our head, like the fact that he's very detail oriented. So I agree with you.
Same. Yeah, I like, again, what 1 Peter 4:10 that says that we need to use them to serve one another.
Amen. Yeah.
So it's not just to, because I know we talked about like glorifying him and everything has to point towards God.
That's right.
But it's also like, yeah, but it's a way that we can help each other. It's a way that through our talents, we can show God's love to other people, right?
That's true. That's
right. So can we develop new spiritual gifts? is it a possibility? Let's say that. Is it a possibility to have more than one spiritual gift? And then are we able to develop more? Yeah.
I like that question. I like the Bible verse, Matthew 24:14. It says, "For the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country who called his own servants and delivered his goods to them. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his own ability. And immediately he went on a journey." It goes on to say in Matthew 25:17, "And likewise, he who had received 2 gained 2 more. In 16, it says, "Then he who had received the 5 talents went and traded with them and made another 5 talents." So it's possible for us to continue to grow our talents. The interesting thing is there was one that was given 1 talent within this story, and I'm paraphrasing now, that actually hid the talent.
Right.
And he was seen as lazy and wicked. And, ultimately, our talents, we can nourish them and grow them. And it's important for us not to hide them.
So actually steward them.
Steward them, exactly.
Yeah, use them.
Yes.
Because then there's no point.
That's right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, use it to glorify God. I think that's...
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to develop more.
Yeah,
more
me too.
Gifts.
Me too.
But I think something that was key that I feel like, maybe for me, is that if I don't use the talent that I'm given, then how can I be entrusted with more?
Right. That's right.
Right? So, yeah.
Being faithful with the little things. Just imagine if you had someone that was on your team, or that you're working, or that you're in school with, and you give them a small project and they fail it. The last thing you want to do is give them something big. So it's mastering the small thing so that you can, do many things. I remember when I first started I was an intern, or I was starting contracted work. This was a while ago. And I just remember I was I'm going to be there first thing in the morning. I'm just going to, I got there before the executives, whatever. I was there first thing, just I was ready for the doors to open. I was working early, leaving late, all the above. And I just remember thinking this is something that I'm really, passionate. I feel led to do. And by that, it just, by that diligence and utilizing talents, it went faithful with the small things. I was granted many big things by God's grace. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Because what was that verse that we said earlier? By their fruits, you shall know them. You shall know them. Yeah. So it's great. Well, this is a great breaking point. Before we hear your story, your testimony, which I'm very excited for, we're going to have a very short commercial break. So hold on tight, and we will be back in a few. So, one of my 2024 goals has been to take a daily pause during my busy and packed day and just self-reflect. If you are like me, you are all about self-help, and I personally like to listen to podcasts, follow inspirational pages or content on social media, but my favorite thing to do is read books. As spring is around the corner, I invite you guys to take a blanket, have a picnic, take a hammock outside, and get cozy with one of my favorite journals/books called Winning the War in Your Mind. Change your thinking, change your life. And this is actually written by New York Times bestseller author Craig Groeschel. I'm not really sure how to pronounce his name. Groeschel. I am sorry if I'm butchering that, but let me tell you, he's a great author. So this book is great for you to rearrange your thinking and have a more healthy perspective in life, at least for me. At the end of every chapter, you will find a space for you to write down your thoughts or a space for you to reflect, and it has great guiding questions that will make you reflect on your thinking patterns, and it's great to see it written down. I know it can be scary sometimes to write down your thoughts, but like my therapist said, it is very helpful when it comes to figuring out your thought patterns. And when you are aware of certain patterns, you are able to fix them. So anyways, I highly recommend this book. It's on Amazon. It's an ebook. Like you can literally get it on Audible, anywhere where you listen or get your books. Anyways, I highly recommend this book, and I can't wait for you guys to check it out. All right, we are back now, continuing with our Unveiled episode on spiritual gifts. And Nikki was getting ready to share her speaking in tongues testimony. Woo. I'm excited to actually hear. I think this is the first time I actually hear it from you.
Awesome.
Because I'm pretty sure. Because the other times I've heard it from other people. But I want to get all the details.
Yes.
So start us off.
So, basically, I was on a mission trip, and we went to the Dominican Republic, La República Dominicana. I don't know if I said it right.
La República Dominicana.
Yeah, Dominicana.
There you go.
Estoy aprendiendo español.
That is good.
Un poco.
That's good. Oh my goodness. Okay.
So that's me now, like, after going, but, like, that's, like, I just memorized that, like, I really don't, that's just, like, but,
that was good.
That's, like, my one word, but, so, at the time, I had, a friend asked me to go on a mission trip. I had actually just met her at the time. She's like, go on this mission trip. I was like, I don't know, taking time out, all these different things. Anyways, prayed about it. I was reluctant, but I prayed about it and decided to answer the call to help, like, go there and do VBS in the Dominican Republic. So, went there. It was right after I got baptized. It was like a couple months. Fresh. Straight out the water. Like, let's go. So,
you're still a little wet.
Yeah, look like, baby hairs laying down. Yeah. So, go there and, I loved being there. The people were amazing, everything like that. And the group, that I went with, they had been, studying Spanish, and they were far more advanced than me. Like, I was trying to figure out how to say, how are you? Like, what am I drinking? Like, I was just like, I was like,
That's a good question.
Like, okay, where's the bathroom? Like basic things, like very general things, like survival mode type things. And so I'm reading these books, I'm going to, I'm trying, but like, I tried to cram it because I had made the decision relatively quickly. So I really didn't know. And everyone else on the trip, they're speaking fluent, they're talking to each other and all these things. I'm just like, wow, like, that's awesome,
Good for them.
Yes. I'm like, yes, you guys are killing it. So, one day we were giving out Bibles after we had, done like VBS and we're building and things like that and painting. And we were giving out Bibles, but our translator for the day said, hey guys, I gotta go home and I have to be with my family, so I'm sorry. And he was native to the area. So he was he was, he knew everyone. Like, and not just like everyone in the area, but he knew the language, he knew the town, everything. Like, that was his place. And he was super nice. He's like, hey, I gotta go back with my family. So we're like, what do you mean you're going with your, how are we gonna go talk to all these people, right? Like, and so, but I'm like, we prayed, and we, one of our prayers, if I recall correctly, was like, God, please help us to connect with the people as we're going door to door. We need your help because only you can do that. So granted, like, there were other people there that were more advanced, like, than me, and Spanish and everything. Like, I'm basic, like, hi, how are you? There's left, there's right, derecha, izquierda, all the, this is me. And so, but they're like speaking sentences. So I'm like, okay, Lord, we prayed. We asked for a miracle. We prayed for a blessing. We went to a couple houses, and then one house, there was a lady. And granted, like, the Americanized Spanish is different than like native, so like the like not everybody has the accent down, right? Yeah. So we got to this house, and I don't know what the disconnect was, but the group that I was with, they were trying to communicate with her, and she was not understanding them. And so she was talking, they were talking, and by the grace of God, I started understanding her.
What?
And she was telling me that she went to a Pentecostal church up the street, and she was looking for a Bible, and she was like, she had been praying for it, and she was like an answer to prayer, and she was talking about all these different things. And during this time, then I started talking to her too, like, responding to her. Yeah, I started speaking to her.
Oh, my word.
And then I looked back, and and everyone in my group was in just shock. And they're looking at me like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm talking to her. Like, what do you mean? They're like, but you don't know Spanish. I was like, I don't know how to tell you, but we're talking right now. I'm like, she goes to this church. She goes to the Pentecostal church up the street. She's looking for a Bible. Can you give her Bible? And they're just...
You're like, give me that Bible.
I don't know what you guys are doing, but we're talking right now. And it was nothing but the grace of God. Wow. I understood her clear as day, and she understood me clear as day. And everyone in my group was in shock.
Oh my goodness.
And it was nothing but the Lord. It was a prayer. It was a prayer we asked, God to help us to communicate.
Oh,
and
that gave me chills.
They were, it was, that was the first, like, on a mission trip, like, literally seeing the Lord lead and open doors to communicate.
Yeah.
And I didn't know enough to know enough. All I knew was that I was talking to her, and she was, and we were talking to each other, and we heard each other clear as day.
But, like, how did that feel? Like, was it like just a regular conversation like you and I are having right now?
Yes.
Wow.
But I knew that it was not natural in the sense that, like, I don't speak Spanish.
Yeah, you were like,
I was like, wait, how is she understanding me? Like, mine is, again, like, yellow, blue, hello, hi. But we were having sentences about the churches she went to and how, like, where it was, and like, it was details, and we understood each other, and she's responding back to me. I was a bit shocked because I was like, how can she understand me? And I remember just looking at her, and then she was like, just talking. But then I would understand, like, but these people, they have been studying, they're advanced Spanish people, and how come they can't connect, but how can her and I can connect? And they were in shock too. They're to the point of like, what are you doing? It was just like nothing but the Lord to watch a miracle connect two people from two different backgrounds, and we were able to speak and hear each other clear as day.
Oh my goodness. I'm still trying to, like, wrap my mind around. I'm such a visual person, so I'm imagining you standing right there.
Yeah.
In her, was it like at her doorstep? I imagine
She was at her driveway, and she was like sitting in a chair, and it was like, outside. It was really hot. She was just sitting. She had a dress on. She was just sitting there, and
we just walked saying, like, her. This, and this.
Yeah, she was like, I really want a Bible, and she was talking about her, I just recall her talking about going to this Pentecostal church, and and different things like that. And so, we're here for, share that we're here for a mission trip, and we're doing all these different things. And
wow, you shared all that with her. Like, this is like purpose here.
I know. Yeah.
My name is.
Yeah, and then I think we gave her an invitation because I think they were doing a service that week too. So we invited her.
Does she go?
That's a good question. I don't recall. It's been a while. It was a packed house. And so then that day, after that experience, I was inspired. So I tried to, like, read Spanish from my Bible. So it was so funny. I told everyone, I was like, that's different because, so now at this point, this is again now me doing it on my own will, because I was like, okay, let me go speak Spanish. But I knew that was a special thing that happened, and where we heard each other clear as day. So, the room when we actually had the event, it was packed. There was people, like, it was standing room only. So it's possible that she came. But it was a really great thing. Yeah.
I'm sure that, like, this is such a God thing that I'm sure that impacted her life in some way. Yeah. And obviously the choice is hers, whatever she does with that. But it's he planted a seed.
Praise the Lord. I feel like in that moment, I felt confirm, like, being obedient and actually surrendering and, like, allowing all of my own personal inhibitions to leave and just being willing to be used. That's when he was able to use. Yeah. And not to say that, because everyone else was like, hey, I can do it. I've got this and I've studied this. And I was just like, listen, Lord, I don't know how we're going to talk to her, but we know that we can only do this with you, a miracle. Yeah. Wow. So please help us. So I think it's by being lowly and being willing to be used, the sky's the limit.
That's very well put. Or very well said. God really did the impossible at that moment.
Praise the Lord.
You just said, like, God used me. I don't know how. I don't know, like, if she's going to start writing it out, or we're going to, like, if it were me, I would have said, like, oh, like, some translator is going to appear out of nowhere and come and translate. But I would have never thought to say, like, God, use me, or, like, God, I'm here. Use me, and just... Yeah. I'm shocked. That's mind-blowing.
It's like, I will say, every time that I've seen miracles happen, it's like, in our weakness, he is strong.
Yes.
And
I love that.
It's like those days, like, I've had, days where I've just been like, oh, there's just so much. Like, how am I going to even get through this? But it's in those moments, like, God will send someone. God will send something. God will open. It's like us knowing that, like, even in the middle of the storm, he gives us peace if we lean on him. Like, it was another day that I had just so many things going. I was like, how in the world, all these different things. And I just felt impressed by him to slow down. And this verse kept showing up, be still and know that I am God.
Me all the time.
Right?
All
okay.
The time. Those two verses, like, when I'm weak, I am strong, and be still, always appear.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that at one point I had like ignored it. I was like, I had one time like I was praying about something, and then like the verse came up, and then I saw it on a bench, and then someone gave me a rock with it, and I was like, okay, so maybe you're talking to me, God. Like, okay, maybe I should be still. But
I'm stubborn, be like,
yes,
I don't know, like turn a blind eye.
Like, so this time I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen. And then in doing that, he just gave me peace, and he just, made the way. So he helped supply my need and helped to overcome the obstacles that were, there. So yeah, anyways, in our weakness, he is strong.
Wow. They gave a whole new definition for, to me for that verse, because I have my own experience of that verse, but I liked yours. Like, when we surrender and we allow God to use us in our weakness, that's when he makes the miracles happen.
Amen.
Oh, that's so great. I love this.
Yay.
This is so inspiring to me.
Praise
too,
Lord.
to start cultivating my gift, and to start, which is very nerve-wracking for me, like, to share my gift, but I can do it in different ways.
Yes.
So, any last things you want to say about spiritual gifts that you feel inclined to share?
I think the biggest thing I would say is, like, God is good. He is amazing. He is, like, the living God.
Amen.
Like, and all those experiences, and especially, speaking to the amazing lady, in her tongue, and us understanding each other, that is by being lowly in heart and being willing to be used by God. And he still does miracles, like, right now. Like, it is it's not like back in the day. He is live and well, and he wants to do miracles in your life as we speak.
Exactly. Amen. Yeah. That's so good. Oh my goodness. Thank you for being a part of this episode. I feel so inspired. I feel like I can conquer the world right now. I feel like we can go out, start preaching. I'm going to start knocking at doors.
Yes.
Thank you for being part of this episode for today, and inspiring us to use our gifts, cultivate them, develop new ones. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
And guys, don't forget, we have a lot more episodes coming out in our Unveiled series, so make sure to follow us on our socials, which are Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Apple Podcast, at It's a DS Thing podcast. And remember, if you want your controversial questions answered, shoot us a DM, or if you know us personally, text us about a topic that you want to hear next. That's it for today, and thank you so much for joining us on It's a DS Thing. Yay!